to everyone that's come today and taken some time out their evening, both in person and online. When Maria first approached me about speaking today, I wasn't quite clear on what was relevant in terms of the conversation I'd be having with this audience. And I hadn't really thought about the similarities between change and transformation and data protection and compliance. But as we had the conversation about whether I should speak or not, we settled on a few themes that seem to run through both roles and both responsibilities. We both have to have exceptional stakeholder management skills. We have to be excellent communicators. We are constantly negotiating and influencing our stakeholders, and we have to engage that critical thinking on almost daily basis, probably multiple times a day. And we're dealing with very complex problems. Once we sort of realised the synergies between the roles, it seemed like a really good idea that I come and talk. Because what I'm going to share today, I think, is going to have a lot of relevance. And I'd like to think by the end of my session, there'll be one or two things at least you can take back to your day jobs and maybe start to employ from tomorrow or next week onwards. So I thought I'd start my session slightly differently, because I want to start with a confession. The confession is this: I'm only standing here today in front of you because at the beginning of my career, I exploited the weak information security controls of my very own employer to get promoted. And for me to truly explain how that came about, I have to go back to before the start of my career, because as Maria suggested, my career has been non-linear, probably the best word I use to describe how I got to where I am today. And it kind of started when I left school. I left school and I went to college. Everyone else was going to college. I followed the pack. Let's go to college. Very quickly, I realized college isn't for me. It wasn't very academic. I thought, instead of going to college, I'll drop out of college and I'll get a job. I'll try different jobs. And in trying different jobs, I'll discover what I want to spend the rest of my life doing. That's what I did. Dropped out of college. I tried a job, and then I tried another one, and then I tried another one. Worked in factories, I worked on farms, I worked on building sites. I worked in restaurants, bars, nightclubs, pubs. Mainly worked in shops. Most of the high street grocery and supermarket shops that you know and love today, I spent some time stacking the shelves or working on the till. Now, the really important point to this story is that I did those minimum wage, minimum prospect jobs for 10 years. I bet you've all done a crap job. Every single one of you have done some sort of crappy job in your lifetime. Maybe it was when you were a student, or you were traveling, or just starting out. I want you right now to remember the crappiest of the crappiest jobs you've done. Really think about it. What was the worst job you ever done? Think about what made it the worst job. Was it mind-numbingly boring? Was it really dirty, smelly work? Or was it really hard physical labor? Now you are picturing in your mind's eye the worst bit about the worst job you've ever done. Try and imagine doing that for 10 years. You'll have an understanding of where I was in the year of my 30th birthday when I got a job in a call centre. Never worked in a call centre before, thought I'd give it a try, and what have I got to lose? I've been bumming around for 10 years doing really stupid crap jobs, so I'm going to try some work in a call centre. What I learned in this call centre very quickly was there's two really important numbers. How many people, can I have a show of hands, how many people have spent time taking calls in a call centre here? Yes. I'm about to put the fear of God into those people, because the two most important numbers in a call centre are the number of calls in the queue and the longest waiting time for those calls. Why are these important numbers? Well, pay, bonus, performance are linked to keeping those numbers down, but the reality is the higher the number, the angrier the caller when they finally get in, and they will not hesitate to tell you, I've been waiting for 52 minutes and 36 seconds, I'm now here to vent. Okay, so keeping these numbers down, that's quite an important thing to do in the call center. But I worked at a financial services firm. It'd been around for many years. And what do financial services firms have in abundance? Cash. No, not quite. Inertia. Sometimes, yes. Legacy technology. Okay. Our favorite thing, right? And legacy technology, what do we know about it? Well, tends to fall over, right? Goes down. And what would happen? We'd be in the call center and suddenly the customer services database would go down and we'd have to stop taking calls. Stop taking phone calls. We can't service the customers while the system is down. And we'd all sit around nervously watching these numbers getting higher. I was curious. What is happening now? I asked my colleague. And he said, well, we're going to send a ticket to IT. IT will write this thing called a SQL. They'll run it against the customer database, find out what's wrong with it, fix it and get it back online. I was very curious. I was like, SQL, what is that? Query language, form of programming language used to interrogate the mainframe database. So at this point, instead of going for a coffee, surfing the net, chatting to colleagues, I thought, I'm going to teach myself how to write SQL. You can imagine where the weak information security controls might come in, because not only was I able to write the SQL, I was permitted to run it against the customer services database. And I'm a temp, right, at this time, working in the call center. There's absolutely no way in the world I should have been allowed to do that, but I did. The good news is I didn't bring the company down. I didn't breach data protection laws as they were at that time. What I actually did was get quite proficient at writing SQL, to the point that when the system went down, I was able to write a query, run it against the database, find out what's wrong with it, and get it back online quicker than IT could, which helped me, and with my help of the colleagues, turn this into this. I had learnt two really important things. One, I actually like working with technology. I've been carrying bricks on a building site and stacking shelves in supermarkets for 10 years, but this technology thing, I like this. And I really like solving technology-based problems. And at that time, there was no greater technology-based problem than the protection of personal data in the digital age. And I got promoted into a tech support team and then eventually promoted into a data protection team, which then led to me becoming the first ever data protection officer for Vitality Health, becoming the first ever non-lawyer to join eBay's global privacy program. Now let's take a moment, pause and reflect. I have gone from stacking the shelves of Lidl in Worthing Town Centre to working on a global privacy program out of San Jose, California, all because I decided to teach myself something new. This then led on to other roles in other organizations, eventually landing me at the Motor Insurers Bureau, where I am today, as the head of compliance and data protection officer. And I'm going to talk to you now about some of the challenges that we encountered upon arrival and the way that we overcame those challenges. So I arrive day one in my new job, and here's what I'm facing into. We've got a bit of a fragmented data protection compliance program. There's stuff here, there, and everywhere. It's not very cohesive. We've got a damaged business relationship. The business has lost trust in us. They've lost patience. We haven't followed up. We're slow to reply. So the relationship's broken down with the business. We've got a limited governance structure. So there's governance there, but it's not all brought together in some sort of consistent framework. And we've just established a new data protection team. And so a large proportion of the team do not know anything and have no experience of the products, of the business, of the technologies. And on top of that, we've got a lot of data, loads of data, actually. We have quite a wide sort of scope in terms of what we do. So that's quite a big challenge to take on in day one. But it's more complicated than that. It's more complex because we've got a complex operating environment. Like I said, we have a lot of data. We have 6 billion data points on UK consumers. We get around 2.5 billion inquiries per year on our data. We pay in the region of £500 million in compensation per year to the victims of uninsured and hit and run driving. And we routinely share personal data with the insurance industry, law enforcement, and the government. And we manage to achieve all of that through a not-for-profit business model. It's a lot to sort of look at and try and decide what to do first. But it's more complex than that, because, well, of course, we've got a complex regulatory environment, UK GDPR, the DPA, and then we've got the Privacy Electronic Communications Regulations, 4th EU Motor Insurance Directive, and the UK Motor Vehicle Compulsory Insurance Regulations, which all play a part, among other regulations, in terms of the work that we need to do. When faced with something like this, the first question you ask yourself, where do I start? How do I even decide what to do first? Now, when I was preparing today's slides, I was looking back over the last 10 years of my career, and I was trying to work out how many times I'd sort of started again, either in a new company or in a new job in a new company. In the last 10 years, I've started again 8 times, which is quite a lot in 10 years. I think partly it's to do with the ease in which I've managed to navigate that is the 10 years of doing jobs all over the place. What I have learned in those 10 years is that it's critical to really focus on the first 100 days of your arrival. Right? You've got to make the maximum impact in those first 100 days, and you've got to start with doing some sort of risk assessment of the state of play, the landscape. Now, don't invest hours and hours and hours and days and weeks in trying to do the most, brilliant risk assessment. It needs to be high level, but it will help guide you in the plan that you've got to document and communicate to the senior leaders. Where am I going to start? What am I going to do first? Then begin executing on that plan, and don't be afraid to iterate. Can't express how important that is, but even more important, measure, review, and communicate. You must continue to communicate with your senior leaders at all times in terms of the work that you're doing, and not just them, but the different stakeholders across the business. Clearly, I need a good team, right? There's a lot to do, right? I need a really strong team. In fact, you could argue, I need a team of privacy superheroes. Well, good news is, I've got one of those. Got the team, the superheroes are here, they're here to help. And we all sat down in a room and started to discuss, right, what is it we want to achieve? What should we focus on? And some of the themes that came up was our reputation isn't good in the business. As I said, we failed to follow up, we're slow to reply. On top of that, we've got quite a high turnover in the team. People don't stay long. They tend to work for short periods and then resign. Our communications, being consistent. We hadn't got a communication plan, hadn't really thought about what a really strong campaign might look like. Documentation, we need to spend some time looking at all the documentation in the business and all the stuff that we push out there. Is it right? Is it fit for purpose? And Thor loves metrics, okay? He's a stickler for good metrics, as before, and he really said we've got to improve in that space. And then we've got to do the really difficult work, tackling training. And I don't know if anyone here is responsible for training, but they will agree that is hard. That is not an easy thing to deal with. So I needed to look at the structure of my team. Do I have the right team to be successful? At the time I arrived, I had 3 senior managers and 1 analyst. I mean, that's pretty good, to be honest. Work with less in bigger businesses. Unfortunately, that high turnover hits us because one of the senior managers, Iron Man, has resigned. He's gone to join the Justice League or something like that. He doesn't want to work in our privacy superhero team. Now, you could have seen this as a setback. Okay, I've lost another headcount, that's annoying, I've got to recruit. But actually, for me, it was a massive opportunity. And the reason for that was I don't need another senior manager. 2 is enough for me. I need more people, and I don't have a budget just to create new jobs. So recruited an analyst in place of the senior manager, have budget left over. What do you do with it? This was where I came up with this new idea to create a new job in the business that never existed before. It's called the Data Protection Administrator, and I was able to get someone in really cheap. It's solving a problem we're all grappling with on a daily basis, right? I want to accelerate my compliance program, but I can't get the budget for a seasoned professional. I can't get people with loads of experience. So I'm kind of stagnant, I'm stuck, and I can't deliver the change I need to deliver because I haven't got the. Through this new role that we created, we've hired untrained, emerging talent in the business. The good news is it's very cost efficient, and that is always popular. We're increasing retention in the team, and we're bringing in that institutional knowledge, right? We're bringing in people that know the business already. Not only that, they have existing strong working relationships, which was actually really useful. Today, that person is keeping all our documentation up to date. They're making sure that is updated. And that's a big job in itself, right? Stuff goes stale, it hasn't been reviewed for years. They're making sure that happens. I used to spend hours and hours doing the metrics. I don't even look at metrics anymore. They're doing it for me. How many people go to meetings and everything gets discussed and we're going to do this and do that? No one writes it down. And then you go away and nothing happens. That can be frustrating. Well, they're on that now. They make sure they keep us to task. As I said, we weren't looking for a data protection professional. We were looking for someone who was a good problem solver, a real strong communicator, and critically, they had a growth mindset. And I imagine just those three things today, you can think of some people in your organization that are in a lower junior role that potentially could come in and take on this new type of job in your team. In terms of the impact, I almost describe it as transformational. This person's freed up experienced team members to go off and do the work they need to do. Whenever admin comes as a result of that work, they just get on with it and clear the decks for the team just to go and do the good work we need to do. I had to do something quite challenging after that. Well, it was in parallel. These things were happening at once. And it's probably the most important thing I needed to do. And it was repair the business relationship. How do you go about that? Well, I started by doing introductory meetings with the senior leaders, one-to-one. I had a presentation deck where I showed this is the team, this is what we're here to do. This is all the things we're going to be looking at. I was very honest and transparent about the problems that had been there in the past. Slow to respond, failure to follow up, initiatives started and not followed through. And I shared a compliance plan, what we're looking to achieve. And I didn't say this is what we're going to do. I said this is what we're thinking about. What do you think? What's your opinion? Where do you think we should be focusing our time and attention? We talked about escalation, super important when things go wrong or things appear that we hadn't predicted were going to happen. How do we deal with those? And I ended all those meetings with a real important conversation about what does collaboration mean for us between the data protection compliance team and you in the business? And what does good collaboration look like? Now, this was a ton of work, right? And I could have been doing other things like fixing things, making things better. But I invested time and energy in this. And I did it primarily for one reason. I needed to get one thing from this effort. Can anyone tell me what the one thing I was looking for in all of this? Results. Close, but not quite. Anyone else? The man knows. Trust. Right? I'm about to embark on a program of change. I'm going to be delivering new policies, procedures. I'm already changing the structure of the team. I might be looking at new technologies. I'm not going to be successful unless the business trusts me to deliver this change. Because they trust me, they're going to engage, they're going to support, and they're going to buy into what I'm trying to do. Now, I'm hoping someone in this room spotted the methodology I was using while I was doing that. I would expect someone in this room to know this. Let's take that away so you can see it again. What methodology is in play here?
Conversation.
Yeah, it's part of it. So what if I said I established rapport? I then built some common ground. I explored the issue. I was actively listening. I then expressed my views before expressing my feelings, stating what I need, and talking about incentives and pressures. Is anyone familiar with the pull-push method of persuasion? I would say you're in a business today and you continually struggle to get engagement, get buy-in, to get people to listen to what you're trying to achieve. Spend some time looking at the pull-push. It's a way of really optimizing your persuasion. And it's about bringing someone to you first and foremost, learning about them, hearing from them, before slowly starting to introduce what you're actually looking for in terms of that conversation. The most successful leaders in your business will be using this in some form or another. So if you see people doing it, I would spend some time just analyzing the way they pulled the person in, started to engage with them, and then started to introduce what it was they're looking for. But this doesn't solve a really, really challenging, thorny issue, problem that we're all grappling with. I guess I could use the word apathy, might be a good way of describing it. There's fatigue, right? Everyone's busy. We're all stretched. We've got loads of stuff on our plate. We've got too much work. So that creates fatigue, which then creates a lack of participation in terms of the work that I'm doing. So that's a lack of engagement, which then results in cynicism to some extent in some areas of the organization in terms of, do I even need to do this? What's the point? And as a result, compliance rates are dropping. How do you cut through the noise? I'll tell you this, you will not drive engagement by sending yet another email. Okay? That's not going to work. You're not going to drive engagement by writing another policy and pushing it out to the business and go and comply with that, guys. No one's going to engage with that. As soon as you have accepted this as your fact, your reality, then you need to sit down and decide what you're going to actually do to drive engagement in your organization. And so that is what we did. We all got together, the data protection team, and right, how are we going to really get the business to hear us, see us, engage in what we're trying to do? And we came up with Operation Hearts and Minds. Okay? Very emotive language there. And it had 3 core pillars. And on the top, there was a surface pillar, and it was called Be Everywhere, and we're going to be everywhere. All times, all at once. Only that, the other pillars, we're going to be the business partner, and we're going to be the solution. These things are going to happen under the surface by stealth. Now, a little bit about the real key elements of this campaign that we pushed out there. And we didn't go and say we're running this campaign. We just didn't. Okay? Be Everywhere is about visibility, participation. It's about proactive engagement. It wasn't just the forums that we were putting on. We were going to every forum that was being put on by the business. We were there talking to people, talking about who we were, what we did. I actually spent a lot of time by the coffee machine, and I buy coffee for everyone. Anyone who came near me, I was like, I'll buy you coffee. Let's talk about compliance. We did a lot of things. You have loads of communication channels available to you. So we started to look at how we can optimize our usage of them. Being the business partner was the most transformational part of our campaign. And how we did that, I assigned members of my team to be the dedicated business partner for a certain function in the business. And they went and sat with them for weeks. They went to their team meetings. They almost became part of that business function. And they learned that business and the process and the technologies and the data they are processing. They gained an intimate knowledge and understanding. And in doing so, those businesses started to get a much better awareness of data protection compliance in their areas. And finally, be the solution. That was a mindset shift in the team, because we could have spent a lot of time focused on the problems. And I said, we can't do that. We've got to continuously focus on solutions. If you found a problem, an issue, whatever it is, I don't want to hear about it unless you're telling me what the solution is. So you've got to come to me and say, here's what I found, and this is what I'm going to do about it. It was about having a proactive attitude and being action orientated. Now, I'm going to try and show you a snapshot of what Be Everywhere looked like. Hold on to your seats, guys. On the roller coaster. So we started where everyone should start, the call center. If you have a call center in your business and you've not spent time listening to calls, shame on you, you will learn a huge amount. And that's where we started. You can just see me in the back there. It's not my good side, I'm afraid. That's me listening to calls. And we learned, it was fascinating, really fascinating what the work they're doing in the call centers. We went to team meetings and we talked about compliance and data protection. We gave away branded merch and swag and gave people certificates. I just printed them off the internet. Here's a certificate for being really good at this. Went to more team meetings, talked more about data protection and compliance, gave away more branded merch and swag, bought everyone lunch, bought breakfasts, got t-shirts printed, compliance heroes. Really nice bright green. Went to more team meetings, talked more about data protection and compliance. Gave away an iPad. iPads. You give away an iPad, people listen, people engage, trust me. Went to more meetings, talked more about data protection and compliance, got more t-shirts printed. Eat, sleep, comply, repeat. If not, get better at that, okay? And if you want to use that, I don't mind. Came up with myself, Etsy. That was an Etsy creation that I put to a team meeting. It was a lot. And we gave away more branded merchant swag. Yes, ton of work. And now you might have thought, that's all we've got time for. You're throwing a lot of time and effort to that. But meanwhile, we're doing the good work, the work that needs to be done. And that starts with the data protection policy. Of course, we've reviewed, refreshed, republished our data protection policy. But under that, we've got standards. So we reviewed, refreshed, and republished the standards. Of course, under that, we've got guidelines. So we're reviewing, refreshing, and republishing the guidelines. But you all know the business does not run on this. What does the business need? Come on, people, I know it's late in the evening. What is it? Standard operating procedures, sir. So we are helping the business to review, refresh, and republish all of their standard operating procedures, and also helping them embed them in the business. But something is missing. A key component is not in this diagram. Anyone want to tell me what's missing?
People and technology.
We're still in the policies framework at the moment, but yeah, we'll get there. We'll probably get there too. But what was missing, what we were tasked with doing last year, creating the first ever code of conduct. That's what we did. I sat down with stakeholders from the people team, that's HR, IT, legal, all across the organization to write the first ever code of conduct. And if you look at page 2, you will see the name and face of our CEO, his endorsement of this document, how important this is to him. We have got tone from the top, senior stakeholder buy-in. Sorry, did you say something?
So revenue.
Revenue, okay, no, that's what I heard. Did you say something? No, you didn't. Okay, that's funny because I thought I heard someone say, what about the data protection metrics? Well, of course, Thor is doing a lot of work on metrics. Thor loves that stuff. And he's producing all these really important risk-focused reports. We are enabling our senior leaders to make the risk-informed decisions that they need to make on a daily basis. Having done all that, now ready to face into a really challenging issue. Training. Training is difficult. Training is really hard to get right. And so what we did, first step was let's sit in a room in the data protection team, get together, do some analysis. Let's look at training, right? What does success actually look like? Has anyone who ever put training on ever sat down and asked themselves that? What is it I'm actually looking to achieve? And why are people not doing what they're supposed to be doing? On top of that, how do we change those behaviors? And what are the actual competencies we need to drive into our business? And once we'd had that conversation and decided what we're going to do, we were ready to move forward with our new plan. And we were ready to tackle the training problem. So, Q1 of last year, we made a bold and radical decision. We scrapped the e-learning, ended it. Senior leaders are very nervous. Hang on, whoa, what are you doing? Don't we need this? We have to do this every year, no? No, we're scrapping it. We're not getting rid of training. We're replacing it with in-person training, targeted and tailored in-person training. And if anyone knows anything about that, they know the challenge that that creates. Meanwhile, we started to break that e-learning up into modular parts. And by Q3 of that year, we're drip feeding it, 10-minute modules, the real core key pieces of information that people need. Because what is a 45-minute annual e-learning? You might be trained for a day or two. What about the rest of the year? How are you going to remember that this is really important stuff? Good news is by the end of the year, we're now seeing 100% completion rates for our training. We're not having to pursue people to complete training. They're just doing it, which is really great. All the stuff from a cultural perspective. And as I've said, in-person training is difficult. And so when I announced to my team, we're going to do in-person training, and they all went, do we have to? I was like, yes, we do. And when we do, there are 5 really important things that we must factor in. One, it has to be targeted to the areas that need it the most. We cannot train everyone. You can't go out and put the entire company in in-person training, well, depending on company size. We can't. You need to engage management before you go into that area and get an understanding from them what they think they need. We'll have an idea, but let's talk to management. Tell them we're coming. We're going to go do some training with your staff. What is it you need? Where are you concerned? So tailor that training, really tailor it to the work that those people are doing so it's relevant to them and their roles. And it's so important to make it interactive. There's so many trainings I've been to where I've been spoken at for an hour. And of course, you just brain switches off. So I insisted that they made it interactive. That's workshops, breakout sessions, whatever you want to call it, quizzes. They're fully interactive. And I said, finally, most importantly, absolutely, you cannot, under any circumstances, put training on without there being cake in the room. Now, cake is critical to delivery of training. Trust me, it's a critical element. And I said, well, if you're doing that, you should also get some branded merchant swag because people tend to react well to that. Now, through all of this great work, wheel of compliance culture is starting to merge in the business. Woo! Yeah, we're making a difference. Things are getting better. We've got leadership commitment, continuous improvement, reinforcing ethical behaviors. We've got effective training, compliance integration at every level of the business. And more importantly, real employee engagement. It would be great for me to say, and that was that. Job done. Put our feet up. That's not it, don't we? We know that a large portion of what we do involves this thing that we like to call firefighting. Now, I go to a lot of events, talk to a lot of professionals in my field, and so I've gathered over the last 12 to 18 months some insights into what people are doing in terms of firefighting. And one of the key themes that I see over and over again is subject access requests. Has anyone here raised the subject access request? Can I have a show of hands? Because I have. They deserved it. They definitely deserved it. Now, I put Edward Scissorhands because I like to describe this as death by 1,000 cuts. Okay? Because if you've got customers, then you're getting DSARs. And if you're getting DSARs, you're getting DSAR complaints. And you're getting DSAR complaints. You're getting escalated referrals to the regulator. It is endless. It is painful. There are some things you should be doing, things you'd be thinking about. You need to have a single source of truth on how many you're getting and how quickly you're doing them. Are you actually future-proofing it? Are you forecasting your DSARs? Can you even do that? Because if you get a spike, you're going to start breaching pretty quickly. You haven't got the resources. And then you should be reviewing the process, doing the metrics and doing that training and education piece. So DSARs features a lot when I talk to people out there in the industry. The other thing that comes up is international data transfers, and I won't pretend that anyone knows much about this in this room. It's a very technical area of the law. I've used Michael Myers because it never goes away. It always comes back. You can't kill it, okay? And the reason for that is I think it's absolutely critical that you be prepared for the next iteration of compliance challenge. I think it was only last year, was it in March? And where we had a deadline to remediate all these contracts, and it was just a huge pain point going and looking at every contract with every supplier you've ever had. So be prepared. I would say if you're looking for something, what you really want in this space is to be able to push of a button and say, I know where all my data is going around the world. And not only that, I know what mechanism under the GDPR it's going there by, because it's the mechanisms that tend to get invalidated. And if I was able to do that, I can quickly go, that's where we need to focus our time and attention, rather than, okay, guys, let's get those PDFs up, start reading them again, because that is hell. Okay. I'm going to end with something in terms of the firefighting that is actually positive news. This is something that we were doing. So when I arrived at the Motor Insurance Bureau, we didn't have only one privacy notice. Everyone's familiar with privacy notices, right? You don't read them. It's quite a dry subject. So this is going to be quite difficult for me to bring this to life. So work with me, okay? Everyone has to have a privacy notice, but we didn't have one, we didn't have two, we didn't have 3, 4, or 5. We had 16. That's a lot. No one would have 16. Now, they all had reasons to exist. It felt quite a lot to me. Has anyone ever seen more than 16 privacy policies on one website? I'm gonna take that deafening silence as a no. I said to the team, I don't want 16, I want 1. Make it 1. And to which, of course, I'll come in with these great ideas. They're like, oh, 1, this is really hard. I don't think it can be done. However, I pushed them. I said, I want you to really test yourselves. I'm pleased to say the end of last year, right on the deadline I set them, we republished the first ever single only data protection privacy notice for the business. In doing so, we removed 30,000 unnecessary words because there was so much duplication in all of this stuff. Now, I think I know what this chap is thinking. I think I know what you're thinking for sure. This guy over here is definitely thinking it. I think we're probably all thinking it. This guy has been on this stage talking to me for 35 minutes and he's not mentioned AI once. What the actual hell? So AI, yes. Imagine you're a DPO and you work in a business that has health data and you get this email. Dear Ben, we've been really enjoying these AI tools. They're great for reviewing and summarizing our customers' health data. Just wanted to check we're allowed to do this. This is the type of thing that my colleagues and associates out in the business are getting. AI is here. People are using it. They're using unapproved tools. Stealth AI is a thing. Definitely should be locking down those things like some of them you should definitely not allow people to use. Now, I'm just using this as an example, but the reaction you have, of course, is this. It's blind terror. What the actual hell is going on? Is there health data being hoovered up by some model in some foreign country because I didn't shut the door on this? And it makes you start to think about, what does AI governance actually look like? What am I actually going to need in this space? Because this thing has moved so quickly, we're playing catch up. All of us are playing catch up on this space. Who is it I can call on? Who can help me?
Data protection.
Well, not just them. It's the team of superheroes. They're here. They're here to save the day. We're going to help you. And what are they telling us? What are they telling us to do? Well, they're saying, really, you need to document the usage. Do you have an actual inventory today of all AI usage in your business? Is it risk rated? Right? It's not that common, right? Every tool, not just the tools that we're building, but the tools that are just getting implemented in the existing technology stack that we have. Just, oh, here you go, we've added AI to that technology you already have. You should have an inventory of that. You should be conducting some form of risk assessment. Now, you can use the existing data protection ones that were developed under GDPR, but they need to be adapted to these novel risks. Then go and remediate the risks. It's kind of important. Once you've found them, you actually do something about it. Again, commonly, I hear from my colleagues that they do all this great analysis work and then nothing happens. Engage the stakeholders. Super important. You ask them why. Why do you need AI? What exactly is it you want to achieve? And could it be achieved through some other tool? Or he's always a stickler for these things. He's defining the governance, make sure there's some sort of forum for accepting risk, because everyone seems to be accepting these risks, but they don't really understand the risks they're accepting. So create a governance structure and ensure that there's continuous oversight and assurance. But unfortunately, my team have missed something important. They missed. Come on, people. It's like, what's a key ingredient in all of this? A key component they've not thought of.
Controls.
Say that. What about your employees? Actually engage them. Now, I won't take credit for this framework, but I found this the other day. It's actually a really great way of structuring what you need to do when you need to. Employees, you need to give them some sort of ability to be successful in this space. It's not just here's a tool, go and be more efficient. And in doing so, focus on awareness, right? Explain why this is coming, why this is happening, what is the purpose of this tool. And then really foster engagement across your employees. You need the willingness for change. There will be concerns that you haven't thought about because you're focused on the delivery, on the efficiencies, whatever it is you're trying to achieve. Actually, there's people in the business that have a very negative opinion of what this is and may have a misunderstanding of what's going on. Try and address those concerns. Knowledge is important. You need to equip your staff with the right knowledge, and that's training, education. And ability. Do you actually have any way of measuring ability to use these tools? Or are they just given to people? So allow opportunities for people to learn, focus on continuous improvement, and really build AI confidence in your business. And then you need to sustain this change. And you can't just then go, right, we're done, we'll move on to the next thing. You should be continuously gathering feedback, analyzing it. We do things now, we're celebrating really strong usage of AI in the business. We do recognition of that for people. We have a small group of people working on these things. And adjust, and of course, iterate, as I like to say. That was a lot. We achieved a lot last year, and it's continued rolled into this year. And you may think that that's all we did that year. That was, and you know, I wouldn't blame you because we did a lot. But on top of that, we had some real successes beyond the realm of our business. We were shortlisted for 3 different awards. My colleague won the Junior Privacy Advisor Award from the Shoesmiths legal firm. We got shortlisted for 2 Picasso Awards. And that data protection administrator, that person that came in with no data protection experience, won the internal excellent awards, which was an incredible achievement for them to come in. And I tell you what, they arrived and we went, here's a ton of stuff, just crack on. It was not an easy job and they really delivered. So that was really good. On top of that, the best statistic of the entire year, 0 turnover. That is amazing. People actually like working here now. They don't want to quit. And we're studying for professional qualifications. So across the team, 4 different certifications were achieved last year. Myself, I did the AI one, but my colleagues achieved those qualifications. So very positive year in terms of extracurricular work. I realize now I'm not going to run tight on time. So I'm going to end with some key takeaways. First and foremost, I think one thing I've learned in all this experience is honesty and transparency is absolutely critical. You can't pretend or ignore the problems that you're dealing with. And the business really appreciate that honesty and transparency when you're dealing with them. Again, focus on solutions, not just it's a horrible mess and we're all doomed. But that's a real key, important thing to note. Be present, be visual, be everywhere. It's a lot of work. You could just sit behind your desk and just crack on, be a keyboard warrior. You won't get the engagement you need. You need to be out there amongst the business, meeting people, sitting with them, learning about the work that they do. The most transformational thing, as I said, was business partnership, and that was understanding our stakeholders, really understanding them, really giving them the time they need, sitting with them and really supporting the work they're doing. Most importantly, probably the single most important thing that you need to take away today, you must always bring the branded merch and swag. That is what people really resonates with people. So I'm about to end, but I want to end on a final thought. And the final thought is this. If, all those years ago, I had not decided to teach myself how to write SQL, then I may still be sitting on the till of Lidl's in Worthing Town Centre. As you can see, there I am in 1997, serving the great customers of Worthing and West Sussex. So on that note, I will end my session and open the floor for any questions some people might have. Yes.
Yes, I'm quite confused and I would like to know, because I'm really interested in artificial intelligence. I would like to know, how do you foresee the role of compliance with artificial intelligence? It's gonna take over, what do you think?
Take over the role of compliance? I think there are aspects that could be automated for sure. I know there was a chap I saw that had created a model based on all of the legislation, and I don't know how widely it's been publicized, and they then use that to run it against their own policies. So when they make a policy change, they're running this learning model against the work that they're doing, rather than spending hours referencing what the new legislation says. So there are aspects that could be automated. I doubt will be replaced entirely, though. He says, hopefully. Yes.
On DSARs, do you find that there's a particular reason that as to why people make those subject access requests?
Yeah,
A common one that kind of goes to the top.
it's at the point the relationship's already broken down. The most common, depending on the business. But yeah, it depends on the type of company. Some companies are just get a lot of these. I remember working on this for the payment protection insurance scandal that everyone's familiar with that, PPI, and we had to recruit a team of about 10 people at that time just to do DSARs, and they were doing DSARs non-stop. And that was because there was a regulatory change and that announcement that, you know, you go to one of these cowboy claims handlers, they'll get all your data and then they'll help you get a claim. So there's different things that occur across the industry, but mainly it's they hate you. They want to hurt you. Pretty much. See?
When you said about AI, the fourth point, you said mitigate the risk. How did you do that?
Great question. So it's about looking at what the risks are, okay, and understanding if it's a risk that we have the right appetite for. So
I'm thinking of fact maybe exfiltrating wittingly
yeah.
data.
Yeah, so those systems,
That's a big risk, isn't it?
DeepSeek is one of the ones that should not be allowed.
It's roughly equivalent to the bring your own device argument.
Yes, so you should be blocking access to tools that are stuffing up your data using for certain.
How do you choose them?
Technical, like you would prevent people gambling at work or whatever.
Yeah, you have a whitelist and a
Certain
list on their web browser.
Whack-a-mole. That, but yeah, that's your first stop, is prevent people actually getting access to it, especially on a corporate device. Access to it.
And then you look at what they were doing. You look at the tool and you try and find a better tool,
You find a
safer tool.
safer tool, yes, and you work very carefully to roll that out to the business, which was kind of that employee success piece I was talking about. So you block the unapproved.
I declare an interest because I used to work for a company that sold software to insurance and banking call centers.
Any questions online?
There is someone who's having a similar question to the one I have, and is curious to know how you manage to keep momentum and energy going and keep your eye on the end goal when there is so much happening, firefighting, changes in the technology and regulations, etc.
Yeah, probably the most important way to do that is at the end of each year, we write a plan for the year ahead, but we also do a piece of work where we look at what we've achieved for the year just gone. And we look at what the state of compliance was at the beginning of the year, what it is now. So, because it's very easy to lose that, and people are just continuously in this world where it's busy and it's firefighting, and they can't see the bigger picture of all the great stuff we've done. So we sit down and we look at all the great things we've done, and then we say, these are the things we're going to work on. Midway through the year, a lot of the time things have changed. We changed the plan in accordance with that. But yes, I really pressure my team on the personal development and the growth mindset. As you see, I had 3 team members do their qualifications. So we focus on making sure that it's not just a continuous daily exercise of fighting fires or really wrestling with the challenges that we've got. It's not easy because it's tough environment working. So there's many different ways of doing that, but for me the starting point is to have a plan, and everyone knows I'm going to make things better by following this plan, and that is the starting point. You've had a question, I'll go to someone else quickly.
Yeah, I'd like to dig a little bit deeper into how you tackled the AI question, because there's a variety of different AIs of different natures. Did you segment AI down in so it was maybe analytical AI, maybe there was the ChatGPT style that might help you summarize or write documents, and maybe there's agentic AI? Did you?
Yeah, so we're
down into
that's happening today. That's already there's a program work stream right now. Governance structure is being stood up. We're looking at segmenting it based on risk, based on use case. So yeah, there's a whole sort of program of work that is breaking it down into different sort of areas and focusing on what is it we're looking to achieve in this space. And one of the areas is the technologies we have today that we're already using that suddenly have an AI functionality bolted on that we didn't ask for, and now it's there. And how comfortable are we, and what are the risks in that space? So yeah, it's a continuous effort that involves myself, people in the tech teams. I haven't got an easy answer because there isn't one.
Progressing bit. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Well, mine kind of follows up on that, or maybe precedes it. It was about your governance certification. I was interested to know a bit more about that, and maybe it relates to the previous question.
Yes, so that's through the International Association of Privacy Professionals. It's it was one of the first to market in terms of AI governance qualifications. I think it's the ISO 27001, 27000, an ISO certification you can look at. It was not an easy qualification to get because it was global. And
Well, what I suppose my question is, what did you gain from it? What in the context of what you've talked about?
yeah, so I gain insight to technology, how the technology works. It does spend a lot of time. It's very heavily focused on the EU AI Act. So there's a lot of time spent on that. And then it's talking about Singapore, it's talking about US. So you get an understanding of the global regulatory landscape and how the technology actually works and it helped me understand what the risks are in more granular detail in terms of what is going on and how these things work. The way they calculate this information and digest your data if you allow it.
Sequel.
Christina.
Hello, Ben. Can I quickly ask you about leadership, your leadership style, business transformation, and then some of the results and impacts that you discussed with us today?
Sure. You want me just to talk about my leadership style?
Please.
Yeah, I'm.
You listen, yeah.
Yeah, I have empathy, and I recognise that it's a really tough job that we're asking people to do, and so I recognise that that isn't easy. And I have a process in the team today where I'll say, look, we all have too much work, fact. So you have to be ruthless in your prioritisation. And I offer all of my team an opportunity to wave the white flag at me and go, I need to talk to you. I've got too much and I don't know where to start. And I'll say, right, before we go into this meeting, I want a bullet point of everything you're working on. Right. And we'll go into that meeting. And I've had this a few times where I've gone, ignore, pause. These are the ones. And if anyone gets upset and angry that you're not working the other things, point them to me and I'll deal with those people. But I want you to do these 3 things first. Then look at those. Those just forget because we just can't do everything. So I give them the ability to say, I'm in trouble, I need help. But we have a really strong, positive team. We try and get people together. We have people all around the country and we try and bring them together to do activities. And I said, yeah, I will pick up work when I can see that giving it to someone at this point in time isn't probably and so I do too much. I know I do too much because I don't want to overwhelm my team, but I do enjoy the work. So we have a positive energy. We know it's tough. It's a really good. I'm really enjoying it. It's one of the best teams I've ever had. So I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, I really appreciated you talking about engagement and training as a huge part of this working. Because I've come from a people change background. So yeah, it's definitely in my wheelhouse. But I guess my question is about just in terms of the leaders that you've been working with, how much resistance have you found when it comes to the time and the investment required with that? And what's been particularly effective in convincing them otherwise? Yeah.
Yeah, so getting time with people is tough because everyone's got lots of work to do. And I've been very flexible. We have now the e-learning, that's your baseline you can point to. We have training. It's not effective enough for us. So this is on top of is the in-person training. And part of our plan each year is we only do 1 team a quarter. Okay, that's probably a really important thing to tell you. We're not going everywhere a lot. So we do 4 in-person training a year. It's all we do because it's so much work. And we announced the plan at the beginning of the year. We all got the senior stakeholders on board saying we're going to come into Q3. And then before then we go, right, are you ready for this? Is this the good time? We've had multiple times where they're like, we're just in the middle of this. Whatever. Can we move it around? So we're hugely flexible, is the first thing. And if they can't actually allow us to train them, we will go into their team meetings and they give us the slots. We just get to them that way. And then move them back a bit or swap them around. So it's about being flexible because it's not a mandatory requirement, which the e-learning we say that's the baseline.
Yeah, that's really useful. Thank you.
Hello.
Some more questions online.
Excellent.
One of them, it goes a bit technical.
Okay, I'll do my best.
What happens when AI is used to commit crimes in the UK with the victims living in the UK, but the humans behind those bots' accounts and AI apps outside of the UK and EU jurisdictions?
I'll be honest, this is the type of question I would have ignored because it's so hard. Wow, I think that's a take it offline question because that's very technical. So it's crime being facilitated outside of the UK against UK citizens. What happens? I mean, I don't think AI makes any difference. I think that happens every day, right? That's common occurrence. So,
Yep.
So
Without AI as well.
yeah,
She's a member of our committee. I'm not going to say the name. You know her.
I'm happy to have a chat with her after. I'm not sure I'll be able to answer, or I'm the right person to deal with that question. Sounds, asking for a friend.
Sorry, I think, can I say something? I think something is about international law. You need to
Okay.
find out, but I don't want to reply, but you need to follow the change. And which one is the jurisdiction?
Are we talking about compliance with global laws, or are we talking about
It's
global?
the frameworks.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very lucky. I work for a business that's UK only, okay, which is great. It makes my life much more simple. I have worked for large global businesses. You see, I worked at eBay and I helped deliver their GDPR program. I worked at S&P Global and other businesses like that. And it's impossible to build a framework that considers every single global law that you need to comply with. So you have to go with, we're going to pick this one, and what we see these days in data protection is we're going to pick the GDPR and we'll adapt it to the extent we think we need to in the areas that we do. So we say globally, even though sometimes it's a pain point, we're going to implement GDPR even in countries we don't need to. And then you can start to say, well, in this jurisdiction, maybe we don't apply that, or we have to apply something slightly different. You have to set a global benchmark and apply your controls, your framework to that benchmark. And then adapt according to anything that is unique in the foreign country that you're operating in. It's extremely difficult.
But I think it's a big hole speaking about law and also artificial intelligence and now ahead on the left.
There's multiple different legislations come around on AI as we speak, so it's a continuously evolving picture. Again, only applicable to global businesses. That's not me. So I haven't invested much time and energy in that apart from the qualification I got, and I found that really hard. And by the time I sat the exam, most of it was irrelevant because the world had moved on. And it's happening so quickly. Yes.
I like this conversation. It would be if a crime is being committed, you follow the laws on that computer misuse, etc. How it's being committed, AI or any other number of tools and scams may be part of that. And then the art is in the forensics, how you tries to find attribution to something. I mean, I just put that out there.
Thank you. Any more questions? Boyko.
So I understand that you joined your company, you created the privacy program, and now, am I right to understand that you also embrace AI governance, or AI governance is a cross-disciplinary matter? Is it only the privacy team that is responsible for AI governance, or?
No, we do have experience of strong governance around risk. So we're a key stakeholder, and really getting the business to focus on the fact that there is risk here. You need to understand the risk, and someone senior has to go, I'm accepting responsibility for that risk. Key ingredient that gets missed quite a lot. So we have great experience of good governance around data protection and information security risks. So we're able to have a meaningful conversation. I'm very much involved in the discussion. We've been managing it in an existing governance forum today that is part of my compliance world, but we're looking to develop an actual dedicated forum for this area for AI. Yeah, it's cross-disciplinary, certain stakeholders with greater influence in terms of the decision making. It's already here, it's already happening, and I don't think people really understand that they've accepted that risk already by allowing it within the network. and how people understand that is so important.
And I have a second question, but
I've got a two-part fun question though,
Oh,
based on your
another fun
your
question.
fourth quadrant. Which was the best cake that you supplied? Which was the piece of merch that always ran? Because he loves merch, so I'm taking on board what you said.
Okay, so best cake isn't a cake, it's actually the Krispy Kreme donuts, and I've become almost known, because people don't know my name, a lot of them, is Donut Guy. I always appear with a tray of donuts. Hey, it's me, donuts, let's talk about compliance. So Krispy Kremes tend to win a lot of you get a lot of respect if you turn up with donuts, people start to listen. And the best swag that I've seen that people really resonated with, well, there was two points to this. One, the first one was we got some North Face wind and rain jackets with logos on. Okay. Yeah, people loved that, right? Where'd you get that jacket? We only had a few made because they're quite expensive, but everyone's like, oh, well, I want one of those. So I was like, well, you got to be a data protection champion, and you're not, so that's a shame. If you want to join the Champions Network, then maybe you'll get one of these lovely jackets. The other thing that really resonated, really cheap, I worked for a company and everyone had the same coloured lanyard. That was the rule. And we looked into whether we could create a different coloured lanyard. And they said, yeah, you can do that in certain circumstances. And what we managed to create was a data protection champion lanyard. And it was a company of about 5,000 people. And you stood out. You walked around with this lanyard on. It was like pence to make it. And everyone went, where'd you get that lanyard? How can I get one? What is this? What is this about? It's the Data Protection Champion Network. Now, if you remember, you could have this fancy lanyard and stick out. So that weirdly, the lanyards had a huge impact, and a load of people want to join this sort of network of data protection champions. But my favourite is the North Face jacket, but pretty pricey if you've got a budget. Yeah, people go, I want one of those.
And you need a few of those.
Yes.
So here's like what you could have won, basically.
You'd engaged if you'd been part of my team. Any other questions?
Online.
Easy one, come on.
The person who was asking the question before, she appreciates that it was unanswerable. It was to show that countries and governments must work together.
Yes. Okay, that makes sense.
The question you asked was a very good segue to the other one, and is, how do you navigate the challenge of justifying investments in data protection when compliance is often viewed through a cost avoidance or box lens rather than a driver's strategic value?
We said this is an easy one. No, it's having a voice at the right forums. Right? And it's not about banging the drum about you're going to get fined and the world's going to end. It's about what good governance, what good data protection looks like, the benefits of doing it right. And yeah, being realistic with what you're asking for. Like I can't get more headcount. There's no way in the world they're going to give me more people. But I was very creative when someone resigned. I managed to create 2 jobs out of 1. So you have to be really creative with the resources you've got, and have a voice. And I think some people might be familiar with this. Have a real strong sponsor at the exec, someone that really buys into what you're doing and will voice, will echo what you're saying at the exec forum. So make sure you've got a senior stakeholder who's your sponsor, and make sure you've got that opportunity to talk to people about the importance of doing it and doing it right, and be very realistic with what you're asking for. And the secret really is always ask for more, right? So you go in with, I want X amount because I know I'm not going to get it. All I really want is less than that. And I'll probably get that. Because don't go in with exactly what you want because you'll get less. So always ask for more. That was my key tip.
Can I add to that, Ben? Because I think what you powerfully illustrated was that it's the numbers. Yeah, you talked about reducing turnover. There's a cost to that, or cost saving to that. So, the compliance function, I don't like that word. I know we work in compliance, but I really don't like that word because I think it's got negative connotations. But just for simplicity, what you did there very powerfully is you sold compliance as an added value function, in that, it does affect positively the bottom line, in that it reduced turnover and therefore saved money, because we all know that when there is high staff turnover, that's a cost. So I just think you're being really modest in terms of Do you know what I mean? The impact and the results that you've described. I think it's a very powerful illustration of the added value delivery of compliance in terms
Yeah,
of.
there's, and we're very vocal for the execs. I would say one of the key takeaways, always celebrate your win. We can spend a lot of time talking about what's going wrong and what we need and what's broken, but also go and say, done this great piece of work. And that piece of work with the privacy policies that we did, that was actually the CEO was talking about that at one of the big forums, going, I've learned that the data protection team have done this great piece of work and they've saved you. And that was great because the team recognised that, you know, even the CEO is seeing the value add. So always celebrate those wins, celebrate the really positive things that you're doing, and try and get those pushed up so they see the value add. Yes, sir.
Ben, you talked a lot about compliance and how you've trained your staff in compliance and all the rest of it, but you also hold the role of CRO.
No, that's my boss.
Ah, okay, because you talked about risk management. Your bio talks about risk management, and I'm just wondering where you get your risk management education from. You have a separate CRO.
We have a separate risk team that works alongside us that have designed the risk framework. And so they talk about risk tolerances, risk appetite. That's all being managed by that team. I have in previous roles had to, I've been responsible for the risk elements of the compliance functions myself. So I've had to learn that on the job. I've never actually sat any risk qualifications, but I've been thrown into the deep end on multiple occasions and had some challenging conversations, predominantly with the FCA on risk management and what an appropriate risk assessment looks like. They'll tell you if it's not good enough, for sure. So yeah, we have a team. I have my own risk register that I must keep up to date. I do lots of risk assessments. Talk about what is the options, you know, what are, in terms of risk versus reward. I'm familiar with the terminology and the language of risk. You're a risk professional. You have to be in our job to understand risk.
I spent a long time in the Institute of Operational Risk.
I see you know better than most people.
And my experience is that most risk managers actually don't really understand the fundamentals of risk at the fundamental level. Because they cannot distinguish between the hazard which causes the risk and the risk itself. Even senior people.
Yeah, the most common thing I've found when talking
There's
about
only one kind of risk. Why? They don't understand that there's only one kind of risk. There's no other risk than human risk.
well, yes,
This is the only risk.
I would say if you're having
Other
difficult conversations about risk management in your business, and the most common thing I've had to deal with is someone going, the impact's massive. Likelihood, yeah, not going to happen. So yes, if that did bad, but we don't actually think it's ever going to happen. So why are we investing all this time and energy in all these controls when actually we should be focusing somewhere where the risk and impact, you know, are equal, and there might actually be a risk that we need to manage. So I've had to have those conversations on multiple occasions with trying to solve an edge case that might never materialize.